Okay, so we're back in action. Gornai, can you hear us? So I am sorry about that, everybody.
Type in, can you hear?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So I'm sorry about that, everybody. And we're just, again, we're still getting used to the system. We're in the breach. We're going across 15 different platforms. And so we got our sound right. And I promise you, you're after we get done talking, you're probably going to want to turn the sound off. No, I'm only kidding. But yeah, we got Donald Trump is basically acknowledging we're in a culture war. I wish people would hear that coming from the president of the United States. You got Goya Foods and somebody who's actually stepping up against Hollywood celebrities, against the radical left, and saying, I'm not backing down. I praise Donald Trump. I was in the Oval Office. I did it when Obama was here. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about COVID. We haven't really talked about COVID, but there is an important development, I think, and it's one that you all should be aware of. And then Senator Bill Cassidy, he had a little something to say about the Democrats.
From Colorado.
From Colorado. So we got a great show. It's going to be a great conversation. Please remember, share our stuff with your friends. Share on Facebook, share on YouTube, whatever social platform you're seeing this, share it, okay? Because these are the conversations that everybody else is having out there around their kitchen table. That's what we're doing here. We got a comment box that's coming in right now. We have Bill, we have Karen, we have Ann, we have Gornai. We have a lot of people I'm sure going to be watching across those 15 platforms. So let's get into it. Let's get into the breach. Donald Trump says we're in a culture war. Joe Resinello, what does he mean by that?
Well, it's funny, and I think it's accurate that the President of the United States recognizes the fact that we are in a culture war because we are, and he said it straight out. Trump called the GOP to push back against left-wing ideology. President Trump warned his fellow Republicans to toughen up and to stand firm against left-wing causes, or they may find themselves on the losing end this November. How true that is. Yep. It's time to toughen up. We've been saying this for 2 years on this show. During his Mount Rushmore speech, Trump specifically called out protesters seeking to remove statues of American founding fathers, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, who were slave owners. What had begun as a push to eradicate memorials of the Confederacy expanded to include former presidents as well as Abraham Lincoln, who famously ended slavery with the Emancipation Proclamation. He also pushed back against the cancel culture, wherein people have been shaming others for past social media posts they disagree with, and in some cases threatening their livelihoods by trying to use the post to get them fired from their jobs. This is what Trump had to say. This is the very definition of totalitarianism. How true, Mr. President. Mm-hmm. And it is completely alien to our culture and values. It has absolutely no place in the United States of America, and I couldn't agree with him.
That's more. Right. And you said, see the way you said it? It's not. He's not saying we can only listen to conservatives, and I'm going to get that media, and I'm going to put them out of business. No, he says this is not the United States of America. Donald Trump's willing to debate. Donald Trump's willing to have a conversation.
They don't want to have a debate because they don't have a debate.
Well, they know
that's the whole thing. They don't have a debate.
Yes.
And this is, like I said, you have every right to your opinion. There's a difference between your opinion and saying fire in a theater.
Right.
Say, for instance, we'll use the police situation. You want to defund the police and someone else wants the police. Well, let's have a debate. Let's look at situations that have defunded the police versus situations where we've had a police presence. Let's compare statistics of crime. Let's look at murder rates. Let's look at burglaries. Let's have an intelligent conversation. You make that position currently, and in some circles, you're labeled a hater, you're labeled a racist, simply for believing that you should have a police department.
That's right, because what Camille is joining us. Camille said, stand your ground. Camille, very important about standing your ground, okay? Joe just hit it on the head. If you simply suggest there's a debate to be had, you don't even have to say what your talking points are, or your let's say all of your points in the debate that you want to bring across. All you have to do is say that you want to debate. Take your pick. Border wall, taxes, abortion, gay marriage. You take your pick as far as issues. As soon as you say, well, I think there's defunding police.
Just using that as an example.
I think there's a debate here. No. If you think there's a debate, you're a racist. You're a misogynist. You're a homophobe. You're this. You're that. You're a xenophobe. All these different names. Camille, you make a good point. The point is you have to just look at them and say, I want to have a debate. That's standing your ground, Camille. Okay? That's saying straight up, say, no, you're not going to bully us. We said before on the show, we're going to say it every single show, the greatest counter-revolutionary act you could commit right now, open your mouth and speak the truth. And even, again, let's assume there is a debate to be had. They don't even want that. They will attack you before you say one word, Joe Rissinello.
And that's
one word.
And that's the importance of judges. You see, judges level the playing field. This is something that Joe and I have been saying since the show began 2 years ago. We've been saying Donald Trump is about judges. Why? Because, frankly, according to the Constitution, you have a right to free speech. And if someone was to dox you using the topic of defunding the police, and they label you a racist, a hater, because you believe in that, you could go to court and beat them. If you have activist judges, you will lose. And that is the main driver for voting for Donald Trump.
Right.
That is the main driver. It will preserve America for 2 more decades because of judges.
Would you think in your mind that as far as, look, there's obviously many amendments to the Constitution, okay? But as far as the Bill of Rights is concerned, would it make sense to you if somebody said, let's just stick with the First Amendment? If you value free speech, if you value freedom of religion, okay, tomorrow on the Crusade channel, we're going to talk more about that, about the Supreme Court coming down on the side of the Little Sisters of the Poor. So if you value religious liberty, if you value free speech, if you value the freedom of association, and you value freedom of the press, okay, then guess what? The last thing you want is an insane liberal judge. That's it. And Joe Biden, remember, is not going to be president of the United States if, in fact, he ends up with more than 270 electoral votes. AOC and the ilk like her. That's going to be who's running things in this country. Tom Perez,
Absolutely.
Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar. These people are wackos. You couldn't even have a debate with them, by the way. Like, assume you could debate a leftist or a liberal. You couldn't have a debate with AOC. I'm sorry. I was about to say, I'm not going to call her names. She's not equipped to have a debate. She is a talking point person. You know what I mean? So the thing is, that's why, like, Joe said, if you value just being able to have a dialogue, then you have to vote for Donald Trump, because he's already proved he's going to give us judges that at least most of those judges are going to be on our side. But can I ask you a question? What is the government going to do about viewpoint discrimination? This is a major problem. Do you not think?
I'll be honest with you. I think it's attack against not just the First Amendment, it's attack against everybody. And I was talking to my wife about this earlier today. Just because they're coming after, say, people like myself who vote Republican currently, they'll come after you next.
Right.
You see, that's what the beauty of the Constitution is. It's a protection. It doesn't like sway with the times.
Right.
It's not like subject to the will of the wills and like the trends of the people.
Right.
It's a constant. You see, they'll come after you next. And frankly, as a Republican, or I'm not even a Republican, frankly, I'm a Catholic.
We're Catholic and we're conservative
people. But my point is, they'll come after you next. And just to look at a comment, Adolf Trump is part of the betrayal of the Christians in America. Somebody just posted. I don't even know what you're talking about.
I don't even know.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, like, to be honest with you, that's just, I don't even know what to say about that.
Right, because look, if you think that Trump is carrying out a globalist agenda, I don't think you're really looking at things. I don't think you're looking at things properly.
He's the enemy of the church. Listen, Donald Trump isn't going to be a canonized saint, but I'll be honest with you. If you look at the Democratic Party, they're attacking Christianity at every turn.
Right.
At every turn.
And it's unfortunate to say that, if you talk about the enemy of the church has enemies in the church, okay, who are in fact globalists. We said before on the show, Jeffrey Sachs is not sitting next to Donald Trump, but Jeffrey Sachs is sitting in the Vatican. So if you think Trump is a globalist, you better look at the Vatican. And we're faithful Catholics. I'm not bashing anybody. There's some pretty evil people right now, okay, that let's say walk the halls of the Vatican. So the idea that Trump somehow is a globalist, when he talks about tariffs, taking our money back from China and leveling the playing field, closing the border with Mexico, getting us out of TPP, getting us out of the Paris Climate Accords. I'm sorry. I don't think you're looking at Trump objectively. No offense. We're not trying to offend you. We just respectfully disagree with you. And that's the truth. But this viewpoint discrimination, getting back to that, let me give you an example. Let's say, for argument's sake, in a particular state, let's say you had a business that was very prominent in a particular state, and let's say that state was 95% Christian, not just Catholic, but let's say Christian overall. And they turned around to said to a transgender person who's working for a particular company, that let's say that particular company, if they said, you know what, we don't agree with you because you're transgender, so you probably vote for Joe Biden and you're probably a leftist, you're fired. Would that be right?
Well,
would that be right? I wouldn't, as a Roman Catholic man, if I owned a business, I'm not going to fire a transgender person.
Of course not. All I care about is if you could do the job. But here's the thing about that particular example. You know, if you deal with say, the public and say you're selling something, you know, just like you have to wear a suit in some cases, right? You can't wear like cut jeans and flip-flops. It's because you're dealing with the public. You know, somebody might not feel comfortable doing business. If you're going to be transacting business, I'm just using that as an example. Right. And it could hurt your business. It actually could repel people from coming into your business. That's just real. Just like you have to wear a suit. So like, you know, using that example, like there's a certain decorum in business. I don't think that comports with
right.
Sadly.
No, I agree.
You know,
with you
now with regard to if you're not dealing with the public and you're just doing your job, and if you want to do that, frankly, I mean, I disagree with your choice, but I'm not going to like fire you or take away your livelihood.
Because even the church would say that's unjust discrimination. Okay, the church would say that. Okay, you cannot unjustly discriminate against somebody. The church would teach, let's say, for example, if you use the case of somebody who's transgendered, they have gender dysphoria. Okay, I'm supposed to pray for that person. I'm not supposed to. I'm not supposed to persecute the person. And by the way, I just wanted this Facebook user whose name we can't see. Don't call us names. We don't call. I try to refrain, as particularly other Catholics. Okay, don't call me a neo-Catholic or a liberal Catholic or a conservative Catholic. I'm just Catholic. Okay, we're commenting on politics and culture. Okay, that's what we're doing. And if you think in your mind that I'm less or Joel's less of a Catholic because I'm supporting Trump, then I think you're just flat out wrong. If you can't see that this guy is a friend, not just to Catholics, but to religious people in general, then the problem is yours. Okay, well, because I'm not staying home. I'm not going to stay home and not vote for Donald Trump. And then we're not voting for the lesser of two evils. Joe and I have said on the show, Donald Trump is the better candidate. He is the better candidate for America based on a lot of criteria.
And we're not voting to have him canonized.
Right. I'm not.
This is not, nor is he my priest. You're never going to have a perfect candidate. And by the way, the guideline in this country, by the way, according to our bishops, are intrinsic evils, and there's 5 of them. And he supports, what's it called? He is on the side of the church. Perfectly?
Right.
No. No one will ever be perfectly on the side of the church.
No.
When it comes to a politician.
Let me ask you something. Was Constantine perfectly a Christian? Would you, Mr. Facebook user, would you say that the Christians in 315 AD, after having been persecuted by Diocletian, should they not have supported Constantine? Constantine was not a good man. He killed members of his own family. He was not baptized until he was on his deathbed. Okay? But yet the Catholic Church reveres Constantine because of the Edict of Milan. So I'm not comparing Trump to Constantine or not comparing them, but the bottom line is we're not looking for saints. We're voting for President of the United States. And I am not voting for Biden, and I am voting for Donald Trump. Again, for a variety of reasons. Go back and watch our past videos for the reasons we're voting for Donald Trump. Anyway, you're at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello, and the Facebook user just got me angry because I'm not going to be called names and I'm not going to have you call. I don't judge other Catholics. I think some Catholics who are, let's call them more liberal, I think they're mistaken. I don't judge their heart because I don't know their heart, but don't do that to us. Okay, we are faithful Catholic men. That's what we are, and we're doing more to change this culture than you are, Mr. Facebook user. Anyway, Joe, where are we going next? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Right.
Did you have a final point on that?
I got nothing else. What's it called? We're going to go talk about some liberal elites pushing back against the cancel culture. Very interesting. A list of 150 elites in academia and the media signed their names to a letter. Basically, it's called a letter on justice and open debate, published by Harper's. The names range from Chomsky to David Fromm, and they share membership in our class of educated elites. Here's a quote from the letter. The way to defeat bad ideas is by exposure, argument, and persuasion, not by trying to silence or wish them away. We refuse any false choice between justice and freedom, which cannot exist without each other. As writers, we need a culture that leaves us room for experimentation, risk-taking, and even mistakes. We need to preserve the possibility of good faith disagreement without dire professional consequences. This guy sounds like us.
Did you hear what he said? Dire professional that's viewpoint discrimination.
Of course.
Dire professional consequences. If I don't have the right look, I'm not bringing my politics into my workplace. And Joe is completely separate from my job. I don't have any friends that, let's say, follow Frontline with Joe and Joe, people at work. I don't mention it at work, okay? When people want to talk about politics, I stop doing it. All right? So the thing is this.
Nothing.
I don't bring it into the workplace, but I don't want my boss telling me I can't work there because of something I do outside of work, as long as I'm not committing a crime.
And you're entitled to your opinion.
Right.
See, your opinion is just as valid as mine, and let's have a discussion based upon facts. These folks who are liberal, with Chomsky, it doesn't.
He's a leftist.
I mean,
you don't get more left than Noam Chomsky.
I mean, right, and yet he has the vision to know that this is dangerous. Why? Because they'll come after him next.
Right, because when the shoe's on the other foot and the power is on the other side, what's going to happen to them? What would happen?
They're the ones that are going to get hunted down. This should not exist in America. Donald Trump, and at that speech in South Dakota, he's spot on. This is a dangerous idea.
Right.
And frankly, the Democrats should leave this alone.
It's a loser for them.
It's a loser. This is
speech.
a loser. They have so many losers. I'm telling you, and I'm speaking objectively. Defund the police. Radical abortion. Third trimester abortion.
Teaching little kids drag queen story hour.
This. Taking away free speech, the
right.
tolerant people.
Right.
These are losers.
Right.
These are losers.
I want to make a point to you about and this is what you have to be scared of, all right, while you're listening to us at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. We're across about 10 or 15 platforms right now. So we welcome you all, particularly you new people to the show. If you like what we're doing, if you like the conversation, please share it with your friends. We do also have a GoFundMe campaign. I saw Pam on here reminded me by seeing her name last week during the show. She contributed. If you like what we do and you want to throw in a few bucks, support the Frontline with Joe and Joe. That's the name of the campaign. That's over on GoFundMe. You could also see the link on our Facebook page, so it's up there. But here's the scary part. All right, can I read you something?
Yeah.
This is what we have to look out for in all this, because like you said, you're not going to get more left than Noam Chomsky. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
And people like that. There's many people that are on the political left, some on the right, but many people on the political left, they're considered elites. Okay. But now here's the thing. You'd think that'd be reasonable when you're saying that I think you should have your First Amendment rights protected. You should be able to speak. Well, here's Ezra Klein. Okay. Now he's the co-founder over at Vox. Now, all you have to really listen to this and raise your consciousness to understand what it is that he's saying. I'm going to read a couple quotes to you. Ezra Klein, the co-founder at Vox, quote, "A lot of debates that sell themselves as being about free speech are actually about power." That's what he says, okay? And there's a lot of power in being able to claim and hold the mantle of a free speech defender, close quote. Now, my thing is this. So now it's a power grab to claim my First Amendment rights. Now, I wouldn't argue to this degree. You're right. It is within my power, and it is my right to speak freely. That's my own power grab, okay? But to suggest that somehow By opening my mouth, it's a power grab.
Joe, that's
well, when you
that's
open your mouth,
projection.
well, of course it's
Because he's the one looking
for the power grab.
You're looking for power, Mr. Klein, not me.
Right.
All I want to do is express my views freely. That's what America's about. And by the way, I respect you to do the same. You're free to express your views. I just disagree with that particular view because it's dangerous.
Right.
It's dangerous. That is a dangerous view. And these 150 liberal academics also think it's dangerous. And you're attacking them.
Right.
Which I find to be actually humorous.
Right, because at least they're being consistent and they're defending all Americans' right to speak freely.
That's what America's about.
Which to me is, look, I'm going to disagree with Noam Chomsky and probably 149 of the other people on that list, politically speaking.
Not on this.
But on this, on the First Amendment, my right to speak freely. Listen to this nonsense, Joe. Okay, I've said this for you. My father, God rest his soul, used to say years ago when Robert Reich was in the Clinton administration. My father used to always say, "He looks like he comes across as a nice guy, right? That guy is dangerous." I'm going to prove my father right. You mind?
Yeah, go.
This is what Robert Reich had to say. He declined to sign the letter. Now, this was Bill Clinton's one of his chief economic advisors. I forgot what his actual title was. Okay, he said, "Quote." Because Trumpism, racism, xenophobia, and sexism have had such free reign and baleful influence in recent years that we should honor and respect the expressions of anger and heartache finally being heard. Now, my question to you, Joe Resinello, does that respect extend to the government and the corporations restricting our rights to free speech? I dare say that Robert Reich would say, yes, the government would have the power to restrict your right to free speech. And as we said earlier about viewpoint discrimination, they also would have the right to fire you if you don't toe the party line. Would you agree with me on that?
Sure.
That's what Robert Reich is saying. And he's saying he's fine with it. He's saying that basically the way I'm reading him, Joe, is that if all these people, let's say, have been, the left always counts as an oppression of some sort. So all these oppressed people, okay, well, now they're voicing their opinion. All right, that's fine. If you think you've been oppressed or persecuted, knock yourself out. Okay. Again, we're not shying away from argument and debate. Okay. But does that mean because you have a gripe, I have to shut my mouth, or you have to shut your mouth? I don't think that's right at all.
That's totalitarianism.
Right. And that's why I said my father said Robert Reich is a dangerous guy.
He also said this, Robert Reich, which I found to be I can't even believe that an adult would say this. He said, we should honor and respect expressions of anger and heartache finally being heard through the mob,
right? Through
violence. That's what's going on. This should not be tolerated.
Right.
That's what you do with a child.
Mm-hmm.
Adults, why should I honor and respect your violence and accept that as, oh, they're just venting? No, venting isn't a mob.
Right.
You see, this is dangerous, and this is, again, another extreme platform of the DNC, which they have to leave if they expect to win the presidency.
Right.
You are repelling the common man, and it's not just white men. It's all men.
Right.
People who are not interested in the mob rule. Go into any community that functions properly, from California to New Jersey. They're not on board. You guys have lost your way. The Democratic Party has lost its way. They have to come back to reality. And frankly, that's why one of the reasons why I hope they get crushed, because they have to leave these ideas behind. Bernie Sanders, Barack Obama, Tom Perez, AOC, they have poisoned your party. They have poisoned your party. Listen, I didn't vote for Bill Clinton, and I didn't particularly like Bill Clinton. But Bill Clinton is a far cry from this Democratic Party.
He wouldn't get nominated now.
No way.
He wouldn't get nominated.
No way. And frankly, I don't even think Bill Clinton would, if you talk to him, had lunch with him, I don't even think he'd support half these ideas.
No, but he's got to toe the party line
of course
right now.
Well, no, he's irrelevant now. like Bill Clinton.
I really wish his wife was irrelevant.
But
I mean, I'm tired of hearing her
name. To be honest with you, I think she's irrelevant too. She won't be invited to the to speak at their virtual convention.
They're going to have what a bunch of cowards. You're going to go to a virtual convention. We're going to talk about COVID in a couple of minutes.
That's going to crush them.
You know what? Trump is going to get up there, and the Republicans, and they're going to have black conservatives and Hispanic conservatives and ethnic conservatives all getting up there, and people are going to be cheering. And it's going to be New Jersey, Wyoming, and then they're going to be having, a traditional convention. I see you all out there in New Jersey. I see you all out there in Wyoming. And if you're black and you're thinking about voting for Trump, well, then you ain't really black. Like, that's the way it's going to be. It's going to be hysterical. Yes, thank you, Holy Faith Media, checking in just to correct me a little bit. But that's fine. So anyway, Joe, did you have anything else about the Harper's?
Like I said, I just find it to be very interesting that these are folks on the left who see the danger in the cancel culture. They see the danger in it.
Right.
And I think it's just another loser for the Democrats. It's just another loser.
Hopefully what'll happen, all right? Now, I don't think it will. These are vicious leftists. Hopefully what'll happen is they try, if they want to maintain this Marxist platform that they're pushing, because the Democrat Party is basically the Marxist platform right now. I mean, would you agree? They are for nothing sane. They're not for any sort of semblance of what, let's say, the Democrat Party used to maybe support. Okay, so they're absolutely insane. If they really, the AOCs and the Squad and Tom Perez and Barack Obama, if they really think that they could sway this country, go form a third party and see how good you do. Go ahead.
Well, that's why they need to get crushed, because they have to disappear. They have to disappear, and once they disappear, I hope for those who are Democrats that the party comes back to some semblance of sanity.
Well, you want to know what? Let's put a finer point on it. It would be a golden opportunity for all those modern, particularly pro-life Democrats, if the Republicans would get their collective head out of their collective butts, okay, and start realizing they need to moderate some of the positions, especially on economics, in their platform. We said it before on the show. Start worrying about workers. Stop worrying about corporations so much. Okay. Stop worshiping the bottom line. Take care of people. Okay. And look to have our manufacturing base. And again, just shed the country club persona. Those people will come into the Republican Party because they're not on board with the platform of the Democrat Party right now. They're not on board with that. They don't want socialism. These are not socialists. They are not pro-abortion. They're pro-life. Okay? They value family. Republicans could really have a golden opportunity, but that means the Mitt Romneys of the world are going to have to not get everything he wants on the economic level. And if you talk about rhinos. So you're at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello. Thank God we are way into the breach. God has blessed us by giving us this platform so we can get out to all of you good people and fight this culture war and go into the breach Sunday nights, going live now, like I said, across 15 platforms and really getting the message out there. Don't forget, share the video with all your friends, like the page on YouTube, on Facebook, all that fun stuff. And Joe, let's go to the next story.
We're going to talk a little bit about Goya, and I'm not talking about black beans. The Goya Food CEO is not backing down after his positive statements about at the White House regarding Trump. This is what he had to say. Goya Foods is facing backlash after its CEO, Robert Unanue, said the United States is blessed to have a president like Donald Trump as its leader, praising him for his ability to rebuild the economy. And he said this at the White House. How horrible. Is that such a horrible thing?
Disgusting.
That a CEO basically praises the president of the United States?
Right.
I mean, really, people.
And the guy went. I mean, listen, in fairness, he's a CEO, so he's got to suck up to every president, right?
Even still, he was sincere.
Right, he was sincere.
I mean, and this is where we're at in this culture. And this is what the point I want to make. Shortly thereafter, as we know, there was like a call for a boycott of Goya Foods. Who else? AOC. We have some Julian Castro tweeted out.
I can't stand it. By the way, I can't stand
he
that
basically
guy.
he basically said that the claiming that Unanu praised the president who villainizes and maliciously attacks Latinos for personal gain. I would say you are using Latinos, Mr. Castro, for personal gain, clearly just to have them vote for you. You haven't done a damn thing for them.
Tell the people what Trump was signing when he was there in the office, when the CEO of Goya was there. Do you know what he was signing? He was signing legislation that's going to make it easier for Hispanics to open businesses. It's an Hispanic initiative. I mean, it's like the way they lie about people, because they'll just keep going back to the same thing. Well, look at Trump on the border. Most conservative Hispanics, and Jesse Romero pointed this out to us too, okay? Hispanics that are here legally, they want that border wall too.
Also, listen, America lets in. If you look at the numbers of immigrants that we let in, it may be the most in the world. We legally bring in more people than probably anyone in the world.
Right.
All Donald Trump is saying is illegal immigration. You can't have an open border.
Nope.
And why does Julian Castro and so many Democrats want an open border? They want votes.
They want votes,
They're
and the right
buying votes.
They want votes, and the right wants cheap labor.
It
really is.
There you go.
It comes
right down to
right.
that. And here's the thing. I am pro-immigrant, but it has to be legal. There has to be a process. That's all Trump is saying. That's what Jesse Romero, who's a Mexican, a proud Mexican-American, who's been on our show, he wrote a book about it. I mean, this is all we're saying.
That's right.
Let me ask you something. Let me break it down simply, because that's what we do. This is a common guy conversation. Do you have a lock on your front door? Do you just let anyone into your house to go into your house, take your clothes, do everything?
Sleep in your bed?
Open door.
Right.
No.
Right.
Now, you invite people into your house and you share the goods of your home. Of course you do, because you're good people. But you don't just open the door to the whole entire town. That wouldn't be practical.
Joe, it's one thing if it's a stranger. I come to Joe's house with my wife. This is my brother-in-law. Our wives are sisters, okay? Now, I can, within reason, I can do whatever I want in Joe's house because we're family. But you want to know, when I walk into Joe's house, okay, in his wife's house, I respect the rules of the house, okay? Now, that doesn't mean, like, let's say I behave badly but my point is that no matter whose house you go into, I was at my cousin's house today, right, enjoying a little bit of sun in New Jersey while Murphy's telling us we all have to wear masks. None of us were wearing masks. So take that, Murphy. I was at my cousin's house. When I go to my cousin's house, there's rules in his house. Now, he doesn't have to tell me them because I know what they are.
You're an
Just
adult.
like, well, you're an adult. But it's the same thing. If you come into America, you need to respect the rules of the house. And guess what? Most Hispanic Americans, the majority of Hispanic Americans, they respect that.
Of course.
They're like my mother and your grandparents. When they come here, they respect the rules of the house. They follow the rules. They go to work. They work hard. Just like, by the way, Goya was a family-owned business. They started with nothing. They're here in New Jersey. You know that?
Yeah, I do.
Right?
They're in Secaucus.
All right, yeah, they're in Secaucus. So, and let's just pivot for a second, okay? Because I think this is important. We said earlier about viewpoint discrimination. This guy, what's his name, Joe?
Robert Unanu.
Robert Unanu, okay? God bless him, because when the left and the Hollywood celebs like AOC turned around, and the Hollywood celebs, AOC tweeted out, oh, this reminds me that I'm going to have to brush up on my Adobe recipe. Go ahead, AOC. But you want to know what's going to happen to their sales? They're going to go up. They're not going down. You want to know why? Because even people. Now, I'll give you an example. Perfect example. We buy some Goya products. I was never a big Goya guy, okay? Because not for nothing, I didn't eat a lot of beans and things like that and things they offer. But with my wife, we always have Sazon seasoning. We do buy beans. All right, I do like when my wife makes rice and beans. I think it's delicious. Okay, and a lot of those products are Goya products. Now, when given the choice in light of this, now I'm going to go out of my way. So if I have a choice between a brand that I'm used to and Goya, but it's the same product, I'm going to support Goya, because I am going to support this man who turned around to the left and said, I'm not backing down. I praised Obama when I stood in the White House with the Oval Office with him, and I praised Donald Trump when I stood in the Oval Office with him. The difference is, though, Trump was actually signing something at that moment that will help Hispanic Americans.
And one of the main reasons why we chose this story, not only for the fact that this man is taking a stand which is against the popular culture, I want people to take note. This is what we should do. Do you see the boycott that they're trying to put out there? We should do the same thing. We should boycott the NBA. We should boycott the NFL. We should boycott Netflix. We should boycott Disney.
Yep.
You see, when you notice what they did, we should do exactly the same thing. And this is what Trump said in South Dakota. Republicans should toughen up.
Yep.
We have to toughen up. We are in a culture war. You want to do this to us? Okay.
We'll do it to you.
Guess what? We're not going to buy your football jerseys. We're not going to go to your games. We're not going to turn on Netflix and watch TV.
Right.
We're not going to spend $10,000, waste the money going to Disney with our family for a week.
Right.
You see, this is what we should be doing. You see, I say to AOC, okay, I want to follow your lead. I want to encourage people to do the same thing. You see, this is how this is the deal. When you have a godless society, what's right doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned this a while ago.
And you're exactly right.
It doesn't mean anything,
Mm-hmm.
because there is no shame in doing what's right or wrong. Like people who have a strong moral compass, if you do something wrong, you feel shame. You say, "Oh gosh, that was horrible."
Mm-hmm.
That was in a godless society. There's one ruling power, and it's money.
Mm-hmm.
You see, what you do is you take their money, and then you have their attention.
Right.
Then you move the needle. And what AOC is doing is smart. We should do the same thing.
Right. And the thing is, we should be just as vocal about
and
it.
Forgive me, as vicious.
Of course.
We should be just as vicious.
But wait, I was just going to say that. I want to piggyback on that real quick. Remember what we're advocating.
Not violence.
Not violence. But when you take their money, it is vastly, remember something about vengeance. Vengeance and violence and all that kind of stuff. The only thing that ever does is that you think that benefits you. It accomplishes nothing. Okay, vengeance is a very selfish thing. The Lord says too. Vengeance is mine. But I want to make a point to you.
Okay.
You are hitting them with the biggest club that you could hit them with if you can get 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million people to tell Disney in an open letter signed online by 20 million Americans. We are not taking our children to Disney. Anything that's owned by Disney, we are boycotting. We are not putting one thin dime in your pocket. You don't need to punch them in the face, Joe Rossinello.
No.
You don't need to pick up guns. You don't need to pick up crowbars. All you have to do is say, you know what? I could do without Disney, or I could do without Netflix, or I could do without. Remember something about Netflix. I'm going to say it again. My own personal boycott. Saving that $13 a month. They gave a platform to a producer that made a movie that portrayed Jesus as a homosexual. So my attitude is this. Why aren't all the Christians in America, why are they still watching Netflix? Netflix should be bankrupt by now. Any self-respecting Christian should save that $13. I'm serious, okay? I'm not going to lie. I like some of the shows on Netflix, but I got rid of it. I got rid of it on principle and say, again, you talk, Joe, you're talking about leaving aside the wishy-washy Christians and name or whatever, okay? But let's say people of goodwill is half the country, okay? If half the country turned around to Netflix and said, you know what? I'm signing Joe and Joe's petition. Let's say we had a petition on a website. I'm signing that petition. I'm getting rid of Netflix. You want to see how fast they change their tune?
Because, again, it is money that guides them. It's not God. It's not shame. What she is doing is exactly what we should do.
Right.
We should not give them money. They'll change their tune.
That's right.
Mark my words. They'll change their tune so fast you won't even believe it.
And that's what we need to do.
And that's what we have to do. You see, I give her credit. She's smart in this regard. We should be as smart, but we're not because we're soft. It's time to toughen up, and it's time, to be honest with you, to start fighting. And I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about using a coalition of people of goodwill.
Fellowship. I would call it fellowship.
That's a great word. Stop giving them money. The next thing, the NFL. Charles Barkley recently said something. He said, I always like Charles Barkley. He speaks his mind. He's not owned, and I'll give him that.
You're right.
Like I may not agree with him on everything, but he's not a guy that's owned.
Yeah.
And he's in the spotlight,
yes.
and he's fearless. And he said, sports has turned into a circus. He said, the fans may never come back. He gets it.
Yeah.
You know something? They should get it. What am I talking about? Stop giving them your money.
That's it. That's it. So where Joe and I are very honored, okay, because we are seeing a lot of new people, okay? We're across a number of different sites right now. So we have our regulars like Bill and Gornai and Ann. We got Zing Bing. Great compliment. Thank you, Zing. Said, I always look forward to your vids. Keep slugging away, gents. Zing, listen, we're slugging away because we keep getting through to people like you. Our support is growing and growing and growing because people understand we're the everyman, brother. We're the everyman. We're not elites. We don't have PhDs on the wall, but we see the truth. We see the lies for what they are. We see the truth. More importantly, we speak it. So we have Jonathan here. Jonathan says, guys, Irana Nation is strong. I appreciate your view. Appreciate the views. Real patriots. Thank you. Jonathan also said, I'll join the boycott. Hey, listen, man, we should only start a boycott. Anthony's with us. Hey, Anthony. Captain Nobody said, amen, I did too. That's right. Netflix has to go. And Gary's with us. Gary, thanks for joining. So we got a lot of new viewers. We're way into the breach. Frontline with Joe and Joe. Like I said, we're across so many platforms tonight. We got a lot of new viewers. Thank you for joining us. Please share, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff on YouTube, on Facebook, whatever platform you're watching us. Spread the word. We're speaking the truth here. We also have a GoFundMe campaign on GoFundMe. It is Support the Frontline with Joe and Joe. And on our Facebook page, it's also the link is also on there. So if you want to drop in a few bucks, if you like what we're doing, of course, it would be greatly appreciated. So where are we headed next, Joe
We're going to talk a little media. And basically the media, two particular folks, one from the Washington Post, the other from the New York Times, they're urging Biden to limit the debates. They feel they threaten to boycott them, as well as to maybe threaten to boycott them entirely. Let's go to the first guy. It's basically Thomas Friedman.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
You think they're listening to the Frontline with Joe and Joe?
We said this a while ago.
We said this months ago. There's not a chance in hell. I'm going to let you keep going. But before you listen to Joe and what Thomas Friedman had to say, I gave it a different excuse. I said, the excuse Biden and his people are going to give, we don't debate racists. So they didn't say that, but Joe Rossinello will continue to let the people know what the excuse is going to be, why there shouldn't be debates.
Thomas Friedman of the New York Times has called Biden to skip the debates unless Trump releases his tax return and agrees to a fact-checking team at the debates. This is what he had to say. I worry about Joe Biden debating Donald Trump, Friedman says, quickly clarifying that he fears Trump would have unfair advantages if he doesn't meet these demands.
I have to ask you a question. This is coming from Thomas Friedman,
That's unbelievable.
Who knows that the media is owned by the left. You explain to us what unfair advantages Donald Trump will have. You get your moderators. You get to call the shots. They're always favorable to the Democrats. Like, what was her name? Candy Crowley.
Oh,
when she interjected, when Romney, rhino that he is, was about to give it to Obama, and she interjected. Who has unfair advantages? You're afraid because you have a candidate that can't put two sentences together and make a coherent statement. That's why you're afraid. Why don't you have the balls to admit it? All right, that's why you don't want the debate. Are they going to have fact checkers for Biden? Are you going to have fact checkers for Biden?
The biggest liar on the earth. He'd tell somebody his name isn't Joe Biden if he could.
Right. He would say, I'm not Joe Biden.
It's unbelievable.
There's videos of him. If you said to him, there's a video of you telling people back in the 80s that you graduated top 10% of your law school. No, there's not. I never said that. And then they'll show him the video and say, that's not me. That's what he said. That's not me. Yes, it is, Joe. It's you. We understand you're losing your marbles. Okay. We pray for you, and I mean that sincerely. We pray for you because you are losing your marbles, and you need to repent of your sins before you completely lose your marbles, okay? But the thing is this. If you're going to have it'll never happen. It's never going to happen.
I know that. But just
the idea of it.
To say it.
And Thomas Friedman's been the biggest lefty hypocrite his entire career. This is why, by the way, it's for people like him. This is why a lot of people don't read the New York Times anymore. Because it's exactly because of people like him. Because you want to fact check Donald Trump because what? You're the fact checkers in chief? No, we're supposed to trust
Well, they have
you.
to, Joe. They have to tell us how to think and how to live.
Exactly.
I mean, because we need them. It's the same thing like with Obama with Joe the plumber.
Right. You need to spread the money around.
I need to tell you, Joe, how to live.
Your business is not really yours, Joe.
I have to help you. You can't function as an adult without Thomas Friedman to fact check for you.
Right. In the meantime, remember something about the fact-checking leftist media. They lied to you about Russia. They lied to you about the Ukraine. They lied to you. They incited all this violence in the streets because they see that African-American support for Donald Trump is at about 30%. Father Imbarrato mentioned that last week on our Crusade show when we had him on for the first hour. 30% African-American support for Donald Trump. So they go ahead and they manufacture a race war. These are the liars. COVID. We're going to talk about COVID in a minute. Not that people did not get sick and die from COVID.
Well, we'll get
please don't mistake me, okay? But the point is this: the reaction to it by the left has been completely overdone. So who's going to fact check you, Thomas Friedman?
So let's go to the Washington Post. Karen Tumulty suggests rethinking the debates, urging organizers to limit their audience or even do away with them entirely, criticizing President Trump and the Republican Party for their decision to attempt an in-person convention this summer. She also mocked Trump's request to add a fourth debate, calling it not a serious proposal.
Why is that not a serious proposal?
Please.
Two debates with liberals, two debates with conservatives.
Once again, that Joe Biden is, listen, I was talking about this today. You don't even have to bring in Donald Trump. Joe Biden could stand there alone for an hour and he will make an utter and absolute ass of himself.
You know what happened if he did that?
Forget about Trump.
Right, Trump in the polls will go like this, and he doesn't
just
even have
to
show
hour.
Up. Why don't you respect
just talking?
Why don't you respect Donald Trump for showing up, knowing the juggernaut, the leftist juggernaut he's going into? You want to know why? Because regardless of what they say, Donald Trump's a pretty smart guy. You know what they never expected? They thought Hillary, she's gonna get out there and she's gonna eat Donald Trump's lunch. And he said a string of words that were responsible for him coming president because he's smarter than her and he's smarter than them. She said something and he says, yes, because you'd be in jail. They never expected that. If you see the look on Hillary's face, at that moment, she knew she was losing the election. He's not as dumb as you think. And moreover, when he says something, they want to call him a liar and fact check him. He tells the truth. He's been shown right over and over and over again. And they say, he's such a liar. He needs to be fact checked. No, you all need to be fact checked. And by the way, the fourth debate, you know why that's not a serious proposal for them? Because they want three. If they, in fact, even decide to debate, they want three. They'll throw a bone and have Chris Wallace and maybe some others in one debate, okay? They'll put that one on Saturday night at 2 o'clock in the morning, okay? So nobody watches it. But then they're going to have their liberal debates with liberal moderators, and that one's going to be on primetime Thursday night at 8 o'clock. And you want to know what? I have enough confidence in Donald Trump, even if that was the case, he's still going to take Biden to the cleaners.
Oh, there's no doubt.
He's still going to take him to the cleaners. And you know what? And I'm going to be excited because I said it before during the 2016 election, Joe, and I'm going to say it again, okay? I don't want Trump to lose. Okay? I don't. And I think if he did, there's going to be 2 years of Biden and the crew and the squad and Obama. And then there's going to be a Republican wave if, in fact, they don't already take the House. And then we'd have to put up with 2 years of Biden, and then it's going to turn into Obama. Everything's going to be executive order, and they're not going to work with each other. Okay, so we'll survive. One man will not save this country. One man cannot destroy this country.
I'll buy that.
Okay. But I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it like I told one of my liberal friends who was so angry when I said it, Joe, back in 2016. He says, what do you think of the campaigns? I said, it's all fun and exciting to me. What do you mean fun and exciting? It's Donald Trump. He's dangerous. And it's all theater to me. Let's see how it plays out.
I'm going to make a prediction. We have one debate, and then they back out and they want a virtual debate and they don't have all three. There will not be three debates. That's my prediction.
And you're right, because
they will not have all three debates.
If you watch CNN, you'd think that Joe Biden is John F. Kennedy. Okay, they'll edit everything to make them sound good, look good, everything else. All right. But when you have the rest of social media and yes, Fox News to a degree,
they're not going to do it.
All right. The bottom line is this. Joe Biden is going to look like what did Joe Pesci say? He's a stumbling, muttering little. That's going to be Joe Biden. He's going to be a stumbling, muttering. He's going to be incoherent, and Trump might actually feel bad for him. Trump's
going to be given like faces, be like giving him like all types of. I'm telling you. They're not going to expose themselves in this way, and they're going to come up with some type of excuse. They're going to say it has to be virtual. There's no social distance. They'll come up with some nonsense. Maybe there's one debate, and then they're going to try to back at it. Because again, the Democrats don't play by the rules. There are no rules. They don't respect rules at all, and they don't respect you.
Right. And that's it. So you're at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. We're way into the breach with a ton of new viewers that are watching us right now across many different platforms. Please follow us, share, like, subscribe, wherever you are. Spread the word. Joe and Joe are telling the truth. We're screaming it from the rooftops for anybody who wants to hear. More importantly, we're doing it the way you do. This is an everyman conversation, okay? We're not coming at you with PhDs. We're not the elites. We're working men who see the problems clearly, and we have the nerve to be able to say what the problems are and fight this fight the way it's supposed to be fought, just like all you good people out there. So remember, do all that, and if you're feeling generous, you want to contribute to the show, please drop a couple bucks in our GoFundMe campaign, the link to which you can find on our Frontline with Joe and Joe Facebook page, and also on GoFundMe, support the Frontline with Joe and Joe. And we appreciate your support in any way, particularly your prayers. So, Joe Rossinello, where we headed? Are we going to talk about the thing? We're going to talk about the thing.
Oh, we need to talk about
the old Italian guy, he wouldn't have said it. What is this? The COVID. No, it's the come si chiama. The come si chiama, you got it, and then 3 days later, you're good, okay? The come si chiama. That's what we're calling the COVID. The come si chiama.
We're going to talk a little CDC. For those who don't know what that is, it's the Center for Disease Control. And basically what they just recently said, you may be shocked. They said after 10-week decline of COVID deaths, it may soon no longer be declared an epidemic. This is not me talking. This is the CDC. Mm-hmm. The United States now has so few deaths due to COVID-19 that the Center for Disease Control and Prevention reported it is approaching the threshold for dipping below the level of an epidemic. The CDC defines an epidemic as an outbreak from which the number of deaths per week exceeds a given percentage of total deaths within the nation. The number of deaths from COVID-19 has steadily declined since hitting its peak in early May after it began spiking in the second week in March. The total number of deaths due to COVID-19 has been declining for 10 straight weeks, including with week 26, which ended June 27. This suggests the United States could be on the verge of not being considered an epidemic. And this is not a political statement. This is coming from the CDC. Mm-hmm. It's coming, again, from a third party, and that's their business. You know,
so are they liars too?
I guess, because it just doesn't fit the agenda. You know, it's so funny. Here we are. We live in New Jersey. I live in a town. I was telling Joe, we have a town pool. About a month ago, in the parking lot of the town pool, they had testing for COVID. So there's a line, and everyone has masks on, and the cops have masks on. Today, in the same parking lot, it's jammed because it's a hot New Jersey day. The pool is packed. Nobody is social distancing. Like I said, the same parking lot 30 days ago, everyone was reacting as if like we were going to drop dead in 2 hours. And now everybody's in the pool. They're parking all over the place, on top of one another, swimming next to one another. Do you think that we don't have eyes to see the hypocrisy in this? Meanwhile, you're economically strangling people.
Me included.
Strangling people in plain English because, again, it's turned into a political football. Yep. I'm not saying people haven't died, and I'm not saying people who have compromised immune systems, people who have heart disease, people who have asthma, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it hasn't affected the old. I'm not saying that either. But when you see, this is just something that happened in my backyard. I have eyes too. I mean, it's unbelievable. And, you know, shame on you if you see that too and you let the government get away with it.
And they are.
Shame on you.
Yeah, and I would like to ask those people. I'm in the hospitality industry. I don't tell people where I work because, quite frankly, I don't want to get doxxed and lose my job, okay? But I'm subject, unfortunately, even though I live in New Jersey, I'm subject to Mayor de Blasio, or Commissar de Blasio's dictates coming out of City Hall. They were supposed to open up indoor dining on July 6th, okay? In other words, I've been out of work for 3 months. There's an outdoor dining area. I worked a couple shifts. I'm still on unemployment, basically. There's not enough work to go around. Why? Because he said, no, July 6th isn't good. We're going to suspend it indefinitely. Now, I said this to a friend of mine who's a liberal. I said, look, who does de Blasio think he's hurting? If anybody kind of like wanted to just ring his bell a little bit and say, listen, Comrade de Blasio, if you think you're hurting Trump by leaving New York City closed, especially restaurants and hotels and things like that, let me break it to you. New York as a state is a blue state. You couldn't possibly hurt Trump because it's already going to vote Democrat, okay? New York City is a Democrat city. Most of the restaurant owners and the people that own businesses in New York are liberals, okay? Most of the people, and I was acting years ago. I know most of the people who staff restaurants and places like that, they're actors, singers, dancers, all that stuff. They're all liberals. Who are you hurting? The one conservative from New Jersey that works in New York in the hospitality industry? You're hurting your own people by not opening up. But why? Because the perception is he thinks he can hurt Trump by lying, because that's what's happening. Again, it's not a lie that people have died, but the overreaction is an out-and-out lie.
Well, it's turned into a political football. Like I said, I just gave you an observation that just happened in my backyard. I just watched it unfold. Again, this is the state. This is the center. The northern New Jersey, 10 miles west of Manhattan. No one's social distancing at that pool. You just had testing there. By the way, you had testing to drum up your numbers.
Right.
Again, the CDC is looking at the deaths, not the testing. It's the deaths, and they've declined steadily for 10 weeks.
Well, what if you got sick? Okay, God forbid you, okay, and you got COVID, okay? And that's not pleasant. We have friends who have COVID and they're still recovering. I'm not downplaying that, okay? But they're recovering. You get it? Okay? One of them, of course, is in a little bit of a higher risk area because has a couple of underlying conditions. He's a little bit older, okay? Joe and I are in well, Joe's 50 and I'm 52, okay? But the thing is this. I get sick I hope I don't die. I'm not John Wayne. In other words, I don't want to die. I really don't. But COVID has turned into no more of a risk for me to go to work than driving in my car, than the flu, and many other things that could kill me. And I'll tell you what, right now, the way things are going out there, because I have to walk from a parking garage to my job in New York City, I got more of a shot of getting hit over the head and dying from getting clubbed by an Antifa member than I do of dying from COVID. There's a fact for you. In New York City, they're going crazy. My wife's crying. She goes, I don't want you to work in New York City. What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to pay the bills. But my point is, and Joe's point, these people, if they don't realize or they don't care about how much they're hurting people, then they truly are evil people.
They don't care. They don't care. They have one care. Get rid of Donald Trump. By the way, policymakers are toying with the idea of a second shutdown. The CDC is reporting lower deaths even while COVID cases are recently on the rise. While the cases are on the rise, the deaths are down. Why are the cases on the rise? Because testing. They're testing. They're juicing the numbers. You do realize you could test positive and have no symptoms. That's not taken into consideration either in the testing.
And that's where the lies come in, Joe Resnick.
But this is my point.
That's where the lies come in.
This is my point. The deaths are on the down, and it may no longer be declared an epidemic, and they want it to have a second economic shutdown. Why? Again, they don't care about you. They care about getting rid of Donald Trump. By the way, this is the party, if they're so concerned about citizens and life, that kills babies in the third trimester.
Yeah, what about that?
This is the party that puts sick people in nursing homes. 40% of the people that died were in nursing homes.
Do you know Andrew Cuomo had the nerve to blame the workers? He blamed the nurses. He blamed the medical staff. He blamed them. You see why these people are evil? He wouldn't take the responsibility for it. First, he tried to blame the government, all right, and he got debunked on that. Now he's trying to blame the workers. Now, anyway, Dan the Man's coming in. Dan's one of our biggest supporters. Hey, Dan, says even in Texas, our governor caved to the CDC. Dan, I'm telling you what, Greg Abbott was a hero of mine before this. I don't know where he's going with this. He's mandatory. He's saying mandatory masks. Is he drinking the Kool-Aid too? Again, Joe just said this is science. That's what we always hear from the left. This is science. It comes from the CDC. Cases are going up, but deaths are going down. That's science. Why is Greg Abbott caving in on this? I'm very disheartened. He's usually a stalwart guy. You know what I mean? He's usually, pretty rock solid, and he's caving in on this too. But yeah, Katie's joins. Hey, Katie, how you doing? I know Katie from Soup Kitchen over in Harlem. Yeah, us hateful Catholics, we actually serve poor people. You didn't know that, Joe? Yeah, Katie's one of the people that I've served poor people with. And all right, so
last story, and I think this is a good one. This is coming from Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana.
Y'all gonna love this.
Okay, this is good stuff. And basically, he wrote an interesting letter to the chairman of the DNC, Tom Perez. And I want to just share a little of that letter with you. I think you'll find it to be interesting.
We're gonna share.
Basically, this is the overarching claim of the letter. He said the Democratic Party should change its name due to its racist past. He gives recent examples of some events: the removal of Woodrow Wilson's name from Princeton, the removal of John Wayne's name from Orange County, the airport, which I didn't even know and I don't even get, but okay, they don't like the Duke. A whole lot of other examples. Then he drops some truth bombs on Tom Perez, and I want to share a few of them with you. You may not know this.
This
so
stuff
that's
is
why
great.
I want to share it with you.
This guy Cassidy is great. What Joe's going to tell you right now, this stuff is great.
Given the Democratic Party's embarrassment that Thomas Jefferson and Andrew Jackson were Democrats, shouldn't the party be embarrassed of its own name? Isn't the Democratic Party's role in our country's worst episodes of racism offensive?
Hold on. Mic drop.
Boom.
Boom.
The Democratic Party was founded by slave owners. The slave owners insisted upon a constitution which preserved slavery.
There comes the left. There comes the left hook.
The Democratic Party opposed Republican efforts to end slavery. The Democratic Party opposed Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. After the Civil War, Democrats opposed Republicans' effort to give newly freed slaves voting rights and civil rights. In more recent times, the Democratic members of the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives fought civil rights legislation, beginning with President Dwight Eisenhower's Civil Rights Act of 1957.
Now, ready for this next one?
Two Democratic luminaries, Supreme Court Justices Hugo Black and long-serving Senator Robert Byrd, were members of the KKK as young men.
My father used to call him Sheets. Robert Byrd, when my father was alive, he goes, here's a guy. His name's Senator Sheets.
And also, this is one that wasn't in the letter, but I'm going to add it to the list. Margaret Sanger was a eugenist, and she was not only a racist, but she has some horrible things to say about the black community. She's the founder of what's it called? Planned Parenthood. And nobody's saying boo about her. You see, this is the hypocrisy of this.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? What is wrong with the name of an airport after John Wayne?
Right, John Wayne.
What is wrong with that? I'll be honest with you. I didn't know that till I read this.
Right.
I don't even know what John Wayne did that his name should come up.
Probably because he starred in movies where sometimes the Native Americans were portrayed as the bad guys, like in The Searchers. You know what I mean? Like The Searchers, which dealt with, racist themes in the movie. It's a great movie. It's classic. I would recommend The Searchers to anybody. I think it was John Ford directed The Searchers. Okay. Natalie Wood as a teenager. Point is, because it portrays the Native Americans as being warlike. So maybe because John Wayne was in the movie and he was the star, maybe that's what makes him racist.
Even on a stretch. And here, I just read to you things. Did you hear what I just said? I mean, the Democratic Party, they basically were against the Emancipation Proclamation.
Right.
Where's the outrage? Where's the outrage on statements that Margaret Sanger has made?
Right.
Where is the outrage?
You're not gonna hear it, Joe.
Where is the outrage that you had a senator He was like 100 years old. He was in the KKK. Where is the outrage that you had a Supreme Court justice that was in the KKK?
Robert Byrd was allowed to say the most ridiculous things because so you remember something about conversion for the left? Like Robert Byrd, he gave up his KKK past. But remember, it's not good enough to apologize. You know, David Duke has repented of his prior positions, and he is now in the Roman Catholic Church. You know what they would say? They would say, until he adopts and agrees with everything that we stand for, we don't accept his repentance. He repented. If you come into the church, you have to repent. Everybody knows who David Duke is. So any priest worth the salt say, yes, of course you're welcome in the church, but you're going to have to repent of your sin of racism. Now, my understanding, I don't know all the details, is that he did. That wouldn't be good enough for the left. You want to know why? But Robert Byrd could do it. You want to know why? Because Robert Byrd supported them. In other words, in all of their policies and everything they want. Afro123 chimed in. He said, we pray that Donald Trump convert to the Catholic Church. I would tell you this, my brother. Joe and I said if we were invited to the White House, I mean, that would be a real kind of shocker. I know, like if we were invited to the White House and we were having dinner with Trump, he said, hey, fellas, if I could do one thing for the country, what should I do? Both of us are in agreement. We would say, let us find you a good priest. We want you to convert to the Catholic Church. We pray for it. We pray for that Donald Trump come into the church. His wife's in the church. His wife, Melania, she's Catholic.
It still could happen. I mean, God works in mysterious ways. But just getting back to the hypocrisy, we talked about the hypocrisy with the COVID testing in New Jersey. I mean, you know, if you let these people get away with this, shame on you.
Yeah.
Shame on you. You know, it's one thing if you don't see it, because, you know, you can't blame somebody for not seeing it. It's another thing if you do. We covered a story a while ago about the woman who came forward that accused Joe Biden of a very aggressive sexual assault. And there was a woman who wrote an op-ed in the New York Times who basically said, yeah, I totally agree with that woman, and I'm still voting for Joe Biden anyway.
Yep.
You see, there's a lot of people out there that see exactly what Joe and I see. They see exactly what we see, and they're voting for Joe Biden anyway. Mm-hmm. They know that his son cheated in getting those jobs in the Ukraine, and he used his influence. They know that he sexually assaulted that woman. They know that he's incompetent. They know that the COVID testing has turned into a political football that has hurt countless Americans. They know that the George Floyd incident has been exploited by the Democratic Party to, again, become a political incident. I'm not saying what happened to George Floyd was a good thing. In fact, I absolutely think it was a horrible thing, and we should fight that for justice and to ensure that that never happens again. Well, guess what? We had a senator in South Carolina, a black senator. What's his name? Tim Scott?
Tim Scott.
Tim Scott put forth a bill. It was very, very fair. And it was, to be honest with you, it had a lot of concessions to the Democratic Party. They voted it down.
Because you can't give Trump a victory.
They are not interested in police reform.
They're interested in the crisis,
and
not the solution.
And this is what I'm talking about. If you see these things as we see those things and you vote for these people anyway, well, I'm going to give you a Mama Resinello statement. Then you get what you deserve. You get what you deserve. This is a mockery of justice, a mockery. And I'm not saying Donald Trump is a saint, and I'm not claiming him to be a saint. He is not my priest. He's not even Catholic. But what I am saying is this. The Democratic platform right now is so corrupt. Their ideas are so bad and so dangerous for you. And if you let that happen, and if you see these things and you're for these things, and when I say you're for these things, you vote for them, shame on you.
That's right.
Shame on you.
All right. And you're right. You get what you deserve. And you know what? I have a sneaking suspicion, Joe Resinello, and all you good people out there listening to the Frontline with Joe and Joe, I'm starting to think Trump is going to trounce Joe Biden in November. And I'm starting to think that Nancy Pelosi is going to lose that gavel. And you want to know why? Because of the level the left is going to. I think they try to convince us through CNN and MSNBC. Look at this poll. Joe Biden's up by 12 points. That doesn't mean you know what, okay? Because you have to look at the individual polls. if you really want a sense of what's going on in the individual states, and you got to call your operatives on the ground. That's where you get real numbers. The Republicans in Wisconsin feel real good. The Republicans in Michigan feel real good. The Republicans in Pennsylvania feel real good.
And also,
Ohio,
an indicator which came out, I'll get out to register to vote.
Yeah.
The Republicans actually had more voter registrations than the Democrats.
And traditionally, the Democrats always outnumber the Republicans in that.
And that was a Democratic initiative.
I get the
That's an indicator.
Right, that's a very big indicator. Let me tell you something. Joe made the point. We're going to have to go through about a couple weeks of civil unrest when Trump gets reelected, and then he's going to put it down because now he will have gotten reelected, and we'll get back to some semblance of law and order. Okay, we're going to be in store for 4 years, 4 more years of Trump judges. Okay, I think he's going to do things with education to bring education back down to the local level because it's too entrenched in the state capitals and in the federal government. He's going to make a lot of moves. But the reason why we're seeing the riots, the reason why they're keeping COVID alive, it's like, keep hope alive. It's like, keep COVID alive, okay? The reason they're doing that, because they know they're in a lot of trouble. Why did Tom Friedman turn around and say we shouldn't have any debates? Because they know they're in trouble. They know listen, the consensus is that in our lifetimes, or at least in recent memory, let's say going back, let's say to let's say the 60s, that Hillary Clinton was the worst candidate the Democrats ever put up. I think they just outdid themselves.
Oh, there's no question. Joe Biden is, and I'm not, listen, again, this is speaking completely objectively. He is a horrible candidate. Hillary Clinton was a horrible candidate.
Joe Biden's worse.
Horrible.
He really is.
And that's why they don't want him to debate.
That's right.
Like I said, you don't even have to put Donald Trump on the stage with him. Just let him talk.
That's it.
Let him get up there in person and talk. That's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you right now. And again, if you see these things that we talk about and you support the Democrats, well, I'll be honest with you. Shame on you. It comes down to this. I mean, do you hate Trump? Is that the only thing that you're looking at? I don't like this guy. I'm not saying you got to marry him. I'm not saying you got to live with him. I'm not even saying you got to like him.
But he's not your enemy.
And I'm going to tell you this. His ideas, while not perfect, are by far better than what I'm seeing. Defund the police. Defund the police.
Right.
Are you crazy?
Right. And remember, if you call the cop at 2 o'clock in the morning, or you're concerned by defunding the police, you're going to call the cops at 2 o'clock in the morning because somebody's breaking into your house. A councilwoman in Minneapolis says that's an example of your white privilege. She's a councilwoman in Minneapolis. If Biden wins, people like her are going to be all over this country.
Why should those 2 young boys have died in Seattle? Teenagers. Why was that permitted? That's a Democratic-run city.
Yep.
Why has crime spiked in New York City? AOC said, and what she said, my mother told me this today. AOC said that crime has spiked because people are robbing bread. Do people? I mean,
she needs to go back to making gin and tonics. I'm serious.
Good Lord.
Right.
I mean, people, if you see these things and you still support this group, you get what you deserve.
Right.
Is all I'm going to say. And I'm not saying Donald Trump is perfect. I'm not saying he should be canonized. I'm not. But what I am saying is what I'm seeing is not good. Not just for me. It's not good for you.
Right.
It's not good for you.
Not good for any of us.
That's all I'm going to say.
So we'll end it there. I did want to mention something. Sweet Harmony is joining us, new viewer. Thank you, Sweet Harmony. Thank you for joining us. I think it was Sweet Harmony that asked if David Duke did convert. That's what I heard. So I'm not going to say it as I'm reporting that. I would say go check it out for yourself. I looked at it briefly, but I heard that David Duke converted to the Catholic faith, in which case, of course, having a racist past, he would have had to repent of those positions and that view. So pray for him, of course, if he did convert but I would suggest checking that out for yourself. So now I do want to say before we sign off, Joe and I want to say should, it's not cemented right now. We should have a major interview with Dr. E. Michael Jones coming up over the next week. Somebody that, I've been following more than Joe, but we both have wanted to interview him. I read his new book, Logos Rising. We're going to talk about his book. It's an important book, The Recognition of Logos. We're going to talk all about it. I will preview it for everybody to see so you'll know when we're going to do it. We probably won't be live, but I'll record it and tell you when I'm going to post it. But either way, Joe and I have had some great interviews. We recently put up an interview that we did yesterday with Chris Bell, who's the founder of Good Counsel Homes. So when the left lies about Catholics and say we only care about the babies in the womb, we don't care about their moms, Chris Bell and Good Counsel Homes blows a hole in that ridiculous lie. So that's a great interview for the watch. A lot of great videos on our pages. A lot of great interviews that we've done. We've been blessed and graced by Jesus Christ that we're able to get these people in our little venue here. And most importantly, we want to thank you for your support. Like I said, please like, share, subscribe, spread the word. Get everybody in this conversation. Get everybody in here, okay? Because, listen, we try to give a shout out to everybody. We try to monitor the comments. If you have questions, comments, and concerns, ask them right away. I would also emphasize that Joe and I are also blessed to know Mike Church on the Crusade channel. Mike Church has the Crusade channel, which is a subscription-based service. Joe and I get nothing from that, and he's offering a 30-day free trial. So we would suggest you go to crusadechannel.com and listen to the content on Crusade Channel because it's awesome, okay? Politically, culturally, religiously, and every other way. You'll love it. So we definitely want to encourage you to do that. And we want to thank you, like I said, as always. And most importantly, remember that our conversation is your conversation. And that conversation, it's going on everywhere. So we'll see you next week. Thanks for coming by.